Welcome to the Utah Football Fans Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, go Utes. Welcome to another episode, everybody, of the Utah Football Fans Podcast. I am Bryn, here with Gary. There's been some news this last week that we wanted to get on here and chat about. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We want to have all of you subscribed, especially as football comes closer and we're starting to get there. Get excited. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, that you're following along. Give this video a thumbs up, and we'd love to have you back for future episodes. Yeah, we're just going to dive into it. Some of the news from the last week.
A lot of going on.
There's, like I said, it's starting to ramp up. I know, well, it's almost June. Pretty soon, August is going to be here and college football will be back. And today they announced our first 3 football game times and then our one in November. So we wanted to make sure we touch on those because they were just announced today. So it's breaking news. Our first game against UCLA, August 30th on Fox, will start at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. So I'm terribly sorry for all of you who live on the East Coast, because an 11 p.m. start time is just not something that I would enjoy. So 9 p.m. Mountain Time.
Stupid, to be honest with you. I don't know why you would schedule that, particularly when you got Nico, the new quarterback from Tennessee at UCLA. Right. So the East Coast, anyway, back in that area would be interested probably in that game. And that's 11 o'clock start time on the down there. It doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
No, that one's frustrating. I guess it's just you're getting the it's not prime time. It's the late time Fox slot, but whatever. And then our home opener, which is on September 6th against Cal Poly, will be at 4 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN Plus. So at least it's a Saturday game, but a 4 p.m. on September 6th. That is not a great time for a home opener.
Really? I like 4.
I mean, it's
tailgating time. It's great.
It's better than noon, which we've had before. So yeah, I guess I'll take it.
That's all right.
And then Wyoming, September 13th at 6 p.m. on CBS. So there will be 5 feet of snow probably, and
40-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah. Up in Laramie.
Snow blowing across the highway.
I still can't.
Why are we going to Laramie?
I don't know. It's like, I can't believe that we are playing that game. It was scheduled years and years and years ago, I think with Chris Hill when he was the AD. And but the fact that our team is going to Laramie on September 13th, but so I don't know, maybe we should travel up there, Gary. I've never gone to a game in Laramie. I can wear my cowboy hat.
There you go.
That's reason enough.
Right there.
And then the last game time that was announced today is our final game on Friday, November 28th against Kansas at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. This will now be the second season in a row of us ending on the Friday after Thanksgiving. I guess Kansas is not East Coast. Last year we had to end at UCF, but I don't know, 10 a.m. on that Friday.
Games, that's early. You wonder how a team's going to react. I know Witt likes to play early, get the games going, but that seems, I don't know. That's a big game too, right out of the gate in the league.
Well, and I apologize. Kansas is probably Central Time Zone, right? I don't know that. I apologize.
I think so.
I do not know. So that would mean it would be 11 a.m. in Kansas.
Don't like the time either way.
I don't like the time. I don't like ending on a Friday. And again, you're competing with all of rivalry weekend, and I still think it's really stupid that we're not playing our rivalry.
What do you mean? This is what date is this?
This is the end of the season. That Kansas game is our last game, November 28th.
Oh, is that right? I didn't look at it that closely. That's the last game?
Yeah.
I just saw the 4 games. I just presumed that was I didn't know they would schedule the time for the last game of the season. Oh, well, that's stupid.
It's because it's a Friday game, so they can schedule it because it's not going to be based on all the other things that are going on in the country. But again, I still maintain that it's ridiculous that we are not playing BYU at the end of the season. I think that is so stupid. I think you're missing out on everything. Anyways,
Okay.
those are the 4 game times that we got today. Obviously, the rest of them typically come week by week, but at least we do have those first 3 game times so you can plan your September. Get them on your calendar now. Start planning around them. And hey, I bet a lot of you are going to go to either the UCLA game or maybe Laramie. I don't know.
Maybe.
Such a travel destination. Um this last week there has been so much chatter going on and a bunch of different conference meetings, things like that. The main thing we wanted to talk about today is all of the CFP talk about changing things and 16 teams, and do you do automatic qualifiers, do you do the conference championships? There's been so much going on. The SEC has been having all of their conference meetings. The Big 12 has been having their conference meetings this
Mhm.
week as
Yeah.
well. So we've heard things from the commissioner. I guess I'll start with this, Gary. What is your ideal playoff scenario? Amongst all this chatter that's been going on, how would you structure it?
Well, I guess let's start with what we know, then I'll go to the other stuff. Is for 2025, it is settled as to what the playoff or who makes the playoff. Um, it's going to be seeding this time. So I guess all the conference champs are in it, but then the seeding in the tournament comes from the college football poll,
The polls.
from the polls. And so, unlike last year, where Arizona State and Boise State had buys on the first week because they won their conferences, that wouldn't happen this year. It would the seeding from top to bottom will be from the poll. Now, the first four teams will have a bye, as I understand it, just like um, last year, but it'll come from the college football CFP poll.
Which
As a seed.
basically last year that meant the conference champions got a bye, the first round bye.
The conference champions got a bye. So was it Boise? Who was fourth? No, Boise State. Were they third or fourth? They can't. I think Arizona State was fourth.
Well, so
Doesn't matter. They got a
yeah.
bye in the first week because they won their conference. But if you were to go back and look at, I think they were ranked around 12 or 11 or something, both those schools. So they would have been, that's how they would have been ranked in as the seeding goes. Anyway, the seeding for the tournament is off the poll this year, which is different from last year.
Yeah.
Now, all of that's going to change beginning in 2026. And the bottom line is there's a lot still up in the air. I don't think, if I understand it right, they don't have to make a decision till this fall or the end of the season or something like that. But I haven't come to a conclusion as to which scenario I prefer, because it's going to be a gamble either way. But I mean, I think we have to be realistic, is that the SEC and the Big 10 are the big drivers here. And it's going to be really what they want. They're the haves. I mean, they are the most successful conferences. They're the ones with the power. I mean, you've probably seen the ad or the series, that Walking Dead series that's
I
going on right now. You've
I have
seen the
not
ads
watched
for,
it. No.
and the guy goes, "Power equals power." We've all seen it. In
Okay,
fact,
yeah.
I think that is one of the titles of one of the episodes. Well, that's what's going on with the SEC and the Big 10. No matter how you look at it, they have the power because they have the money, and their leagues have been dominant. So that's just the way it is. And so they're going to have a lot to say on what the format's going to be. Now, what are there? 3 scenarios out there. There's the Big 10 and the SEC. There's this scenario. say it's a 14, there's a scenario for 14 teams, which is 4 guaranteed to the SEC and Big 10, 2 to the ACC, and 2 to the Big 12, automatic qualifiers. And then there's a one for the one for Notre Dame if they're within the top 14. And can I just say, what's with Notre Dame? I'm so sick of their special treatment. It's a joke.
I don't know.
Why do they get this special carve out all the time?
I don't know.
To me, join a league or tough. I don't know. I'm just tired of them getting this special carve out, different from everybody else. And then there's just one other for the G5 conferences or whatever they are. That's the 14 teams. And then there's the 16 team, which is the same thing in the sense of 4 automatic qualifiers for the Big 10, SEC again, and then 2 for the ACC and the Big 12. But in that scenario, then there's one for Notre Dame, basically, if they're within the top 16, they're in. And then there's 3, I think it goes with the G5 group of 5, whatever the crap they're called. They get one. And then there's some other openings for other teams that can be picked to come in. And to me, I don't like that, because more than likely, any teams that could still make it in, it's going to come out of the SEC or the Big 10. It's just giving them more teams in. I don't think they need more teams. So there's that. But there's also, and I think this is getting traction, I think this is the one that Harlan likes. I think this is what your Mark from Big 12 commissioner likes. And I read today that even Sankey and the SEC is leaning this way. It's the 5-11, meaning the 5 conferences get their champion is in the tournament, and then there's 11 at large that then are, and then everyone's still seeded by the playoff or by the poll. And so these 11 at large will come out of the committee basically, and will be determined who is in there. Now, the thing I worry about, I mean, I don't think there's a perfect scenario here, but let's face it, the at-large numbers being picked by the committee, and the committee is biased, is so biased, and it's regionally biased, and you just wonder if they're, the influence isn't toward the Big 10, SEC. Plus, I read where the SEC, I think the Big 10, are working on criteria for strength of schedule kind of stuff. And if that influence comes in, it's going to be biased toward them. That's what they've been whining about since last year's playoff to this year's. They had teams that should have been in because of strength of schedule. Alabama, Mississippi, Ole Miss. It's strength of schedule. South Carolina. That's all you hear about. So I think when there's just this committee that can rank, and this influences, and whatever the criteria comes from those conferences, that worries me. But
and what's so funny about strength of schedule, I was just seeing stuff on Twitter about that, and the SEC is trying to prove, our strength of schedule strength is so much better than everybody else's. Okay, well, you've already mentioned it. The polls are skewed towards the SEC and the Big 10. You start the preseason with all of these teams ranked higher, and then you're saying, well, see, we play all these teams that are ranked higher. Well, the system's rigged towards your favor anyways. So
there's weaknesses all around, but
yeah.
We'll see. That's still to be figured out. Do you have a preference? I guess I ask you.
Well, out of all the scenarios right now, I want to keep the integrity of the regular season. I don't like this idea of the automatic qualifiers of just from each conference, because then it's kind of like, what's the point? It devalues the regular season, and it completely devalues a conference championship. Like, what if you get 4 teams automatically, no matter what? Like, what's the point of, it determines your seeding in the playoff, but at the same time, it just totally cheapens a conference championship game. And then it completely cheapens regular season, all that stuff. So I don't like that. I agree with you. I think out of the scenarios right now, the best seems to be this 5 and 11. Of course, all of this frustrates me and worries me because, like you said, whatever they decide, the rest of that seating is determined by a committee. And there's so much bias going on. There's so much backdoor dealings, corruption, whatever you want to say, that leans toward the SEC and the Big 10. And I will be honest, I am sick and tired of bowing down to the SEC. I'm tired of the SEC whining and crying and, oh my gosh, we didn't get our way. I am so sick of it. And the stuff that Sankey says, dude, shut up. Like, I feel like it does bother me that we keep talking about this every year and changing the way the playoffs work, like every single year. How about you let it breathe for a few years? Let's try it for a few years. And to be honest, I think the reason that we're having these conversations about changing, it needs change, is because the SEC has missed out the last 2 years. I truly believe that. They haven't had a team in the national championship game the last 2 seasons. And I think they're throwing their little hissy fit tantrum and saying, well, we got to blow up the whole system because we haven't been included. And of course, we always have to be included. I'm sick of them. There's my rant.
Well, that's a fair rant. And I think a lot of people would think that. But as I said, so a couple things can be true. I can agree with what everything you just said. And I think a lot of people are sick of it. But Sankey and Petiti, who's the commissioner for the Big 10, the fact is, let's just say Sankey, he is the commissioner for the SEC. He's not the commissioner for college football.
Well, it feels like that.
The most interest for him is his league and as much money and prestige and power they can get. And the reality is, and it's like all commissioners, I know Sankey's the man out there, and he's not saying this stuff if the college presidents aren't telling him to say this stuff, or the things that they're trying to get is not without their college presidents telling him what to do. And it's the same with every conference. The thing is, though, the money from television and so much stuff goes to the SEC and the Big 10. And this is my opinion. The truth of the matter is, those two could say, screw you, ACC and Big 12. We're going on our own. And the fact is, they could do it, and they would still make all that money. They would still have all the prestige. I mean, they have all the cards right now because they are the premier leagues right now. That's just the way it is. You look at the records, the national champions from the last, 10 years. So they've got the upper hand. And they want to maintain it, and they want to expand it. And that's what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I'm sick of it all. But I mean, to me, it's sort of reality. If we don't think Sankey cares about and Petiti cares about the Big 12 or the ACC, I don't think they really care that much about them. I guarantee the college presidents of those conferences could care less about us as fans or the other leagues. They just want what's best for the SEC and the Big 10. That's the fact. So, because we don't have like this czar that's over top of the entire college football, and then everyone's underneath that. No, everyone's independent, and they're just trying to work it together. And those guys have the leverage, and that's just the way it is.
Well, isn't Nick Saban going to be the college football?
He's an SEC guy.
I know. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, try and find someone who doesn't have a connection to.
So there's a risk. Whatever the playoff thing happens, there's a risk either way, whether you have the 5 and 11, which then you have the 11 at large that are by the committee, or you go with the 4, 2 and 2, and then the others, that scenario where those are automatic qualifiers. The advantage of that there is guaranteed 2 from the Big 12 that will go into the championship. The other scenario, you can maybe just get one. If everyone's beating up on each other and they're not ranked high enough, maybe we just get one, and that's the risk. Of course, you could go the other way and get more. So I don't know what the right answer is. For me, I'll just say this: if it were to, when it comes to the automatic qualifier scenario, where there's the 4-4-2-2, and either the 16 team or 14 team, I go with the 14 team playoff. The 16 team, because of those extra at-large bids that are at the end, that means those are going to go to the SEC or the Big 10, and to me that diminishes. I mean, in other words, you could lose the last game or lose a couple of games, but they know, well, we just have to win one or two and get ranked high enough, and the committee is going to put us in at the end and help our conferences out. See, I don't want that. That's like, I think Clack called it like a lifeline or something like that to the league. And so going in that scenario, I go with the 14 team. I don't know what's best, but I heard Dillingham say today, I think it was him, where I read it, about all this stuff and all of the noise that it is, that we tend to forget the good part about football and the fun that football is and stuff like that. And I got to say, I agree with that. All this stuff gets all muddy and mushy, and it's kind of ugly, and it is what it is. We got to deal with it. But I don't want to let it ruin the great game that we love to watch and be involved in.
Well, and I'm not a huge fan of Mark Harlan all the time, but I do agree. He said something last week about just all we can do. You just got to go out and win. We got to go out and win our games. And again, yeah, we can bitch and moan about this as much as we want, but it's going to be what it's going to be. And I agree with you. So we just got to go out and win our games as a conference,
Right.
as a Utah team. Like, if we want to be taken more seriously, we got to go out and prove it and win our games. And I do agree with that.
I agree.
So, give the committee a problem, like give them something to actually have to talk about, and
So, yeah,
hopefully it'll be that. But everyone will keep our eyes and ears open for it, because this is not the last thing that we'll be hearing about, because again, the decision has not been made, but we do at least have the playoffs settled for the 2025 season. Like you said, it's staying at that 12 teams. It's just the way the seeding is going to be different. But all right.
I'll just say, so there's a lot of other stuff going on, revolving around the portal stuff, NIL stuff. Of course, there's going to be the ruling coming down from the judge on, revenue sharing and all that stuff. It's gonna make some big differences. But I heard today, coming out of the SEC, that they would like to have one portal, and that's in January. I like that idea, and I find that positive coming out of the SEC, where there's so much influence.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine the Big Ten's there, because then you could have the portal, it's done, and you know who your team is going into spring and into the fall. There is that. And I don't know if you've heard about the affiliation agreement that's cycling through all of the conferences, trying to get every team to sign in on it, meaning it's about enforcement and punishment of all the teams. If you don't sign it, you could get kicked out, stuff like that. It's an important thing. And then there's I forgot the exact name of it, but it's like the College Sports Commission, which is dealing with NIL. This is coming together so it can to kind of rein in all of the booster money, collective stuff, and bring NIL back to what it should have been. So there's just some really good things. I'd recommend, if anybody out there, a guy who's all over this, it's Ross Dellinger. You can follow him on Twitter. He's Yahoo Sports. He is all over these things that are going on, and they're big and they're important. I mean, a long ways to go, but for me, there's some really positive signs of some stuff that is going on. So, and we'll talk about it as we go along.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that these conversations are being had, that means people know it's an issue. It needs to be dealt with. And so hopefully some resolution will come of it. All
Let me
right.
just give you this. I don't know if you saw it, and then we'll get out for the
Okay.
call it. But this was from Ross Dellinger on Twitter, and he wrote that Greg Sankey reemphasized today that the SEC's preference for a future NCAA governance model is to create a separate P4 division within the NCAA where the power conferences can legislate independently and with full autonomy, but also continue competing in NCAA championships. I've not heard that before. That's a big deal. So that is floating around in the college football, or no, that's college athletic universe. So to have a separate P4 division within NCAA, so it's just P4. Big stuff is cycling and circling. But anyway, good stuff.
Well, I guess we'll probably be back next week with even more breaking news because
talk about.
There's just a lot going on, lots to talk about. So we will see you next week. Go you. Playoffs.
Messed up.
Go Oilers.
Yeah, go Oilers.